You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey, what's up? It's Christopher, a.k.a. the Bronze Age Nerd, and I'm joined by...
the Queen of England? No, Bigby McFly, the comic guy.
And together we
are the comedian.
And together we are your hosts for Best Ghost Comics. Welcome into the show, everybody. So I just want to take a chance to make sure we say hello to everybody who's here in the chat early, and don't worry, we'll say hello to you throughout the show. You know, we'll wave if we're talking and that kind of stuff. GT Key Comic, just holding it down as the record holder for fastest person into the stream alive. It's Barry Allen and it's GT Key Comic. Welcome to the show, Richard. Would love seeing you in here. Thanks for being here. John's Comic with Kids. Hey, that's awesome to see you in here. Hello, hello, hello. Comic Tropes. Is it just starting? Yes, you made it just in time. Comic Tropes, a awesome show earlier. I caught part of it. He did a great job. He does the weekly spinner rack over on Pros and Cons. Highly recommend checking out. He just did an interview about a upcoming Terminator comic with one of the creators for that one. So I definitely recommend checking out that interview and some of his news segments. Great show. Derek, what's up? How's it going, Derek? Thanks for being here. Let's see if there's any other unique ones. Oh, hey, we got Garf Wong. Hello, Garf Wong. And Brandon. Brandon, what's up?
You got Richard. You got Richard.
Awesome. So thanks for being here, everybody. We've got action-packed show tonight. The news is actually a little on the light side, I'll be honest. Like nothing super crazy that I think is, like, oh my gosh, this is the most controversial or pressing news that the comic book scene has ever seen. But there's some interesting stories for sure. And then on top of that, we actually do have a fun topic that was actually Bigby's topic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what our main topic is tonight that you've decided, which I think is amazing?
Secret origins. Or how we got into comics and just kind of you guys can learn a little bit about us.
Yeah Specifically like the actual like reading and collecting of comic books and what got us started and kind of we'll do a deep dive on that. I know some people have been curious about that. We've talked about it with me a little bit with Kyle over on the Old Devil's Advocates show, which is a excellent reminder to let you know that Devil's Advocates was a show on the EXP, which is a place that we're currently streaming right now. You might be watching on my channel or Bigby's channel over on YouTube, or you could be watching on any of the various EXP. They have a YouTube channel, they have a Facebook, they have an X, but they're not streaming over there right now, Twitch, and Instagram Live. So lots of places to watch them. I highly recommend going and subbing them up. There is a link in the description below. While you're at it, you should sub up Bigby or you should sub up myself if you're not subbed up to us. And we'd love to see you. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah. On top of that, there was a giveaway tonight too. That's another thing I should probably mention before we get too far into the news story. So this week, because one of our news stories revolved around Star Wars, I grabbed a couple Star Wars books, and these are donated by Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. I'll make myself big just to show them off because I have them here. Got the Star Wars Vader Down first trade paperback. That's the arc that is very, very notorious for being one of the coolest Darth Vader stories ever, pretty much. Very neat, kind of Darth Vader stranded on a planet, and basically the entire Rebel Alliance is like, let's go get him. Did this free comic book day. I can't remember what year that was, but it's one of the Commander Cody cover there. That's kind of a cool book that not a lot of people probably have, Dark Horse era. And then I'm doing Ultra Massive. That's a thick square bound book, Virgin cover. That's getting thrown in there as well.
That's cool.
And nice little Neil Adams, Lex Luthor homage there.
Nice.
And that hashtag to win that is going to be #origin in the chat. #origin in the chat. And that gives you your chance to win that prize pack totally for free. And we also will be doing, oops, that's the wrong hashtag. We also will be doing a channel member giveaway for the month of August, because now we're in September. I'll do that at the end of the show as well. That's for my channel members. You had to be a channel member in the month of August. However, you can become a channel member now if you want, and then that will give you a chance to win it in September. At the end of actually, I guess technically in October Cool. Let's see. Did I miss anybody else? I did want to say, real fast, we got Colossus Collector. I saw him pop in, and we have Christina Payne, previous winner of one of those prize packages. I need to get her sent out still. So we did have a couple more people jump in. So we want to say shout out to everybody that jumped in. Let's see. First thing we're going to do every week between now, I should probably not make myself the only person that's big on screen. There's the hashtag down there in case you were wondering how to spell origin. Comic collectors, come on, you should know. First thing we're going to do every week leading up to Heroes for Heroes, which takes place in November, is talk about Heroes for Heroes every week, kind of give you an update of where we're at. I'm going to share the screen here so I can show you where we're at with the campaign. I don't believe any new donations rolled in, but I did, hey, new people could be watching every week, so I really want to take a second to highlight this. This is the official Heroes for Heroes fundraising page over on the Mission 22 website at givemission22.com, and this is the place to go to officially donate to Mission 22 on behalf of our fundraiser. Right now we're at $250 of our $8,000 goal. That means we're at 3%. There we go.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, every little bit helps. We can't wait to see those start to roll in. It gives you some information about who's donated in the past and all that kind of fun stuff. And then there's also, if you just want to go to Mission 22, there's some great information there that explains what Mission 22 is. If you're unfamiliar, it is a charity that basically helps veterans deal with mental health struggles and helps them. The primary goal is basically to prevent veterans from wanting to take their own life. So I think it's a very worthy cause. We run it. If it's not run on Veterans Day, it'll be that weekend probably that we run the main charity event. So we definitely would love to have your participation in that. If you want to go support that, we'd really appreciate it. And
we're going to do some satellite like sketch shows and stuff maybe.
Yeah, so we're probably going to try to have that happen. We have a number of YouTubers that have joined our coalition, is what we call the Coalition of the Giving. And there is a private Instagram chat, but if you want to be part of that and you want to have kind of a extra way to help leading up to the show, whether it's sharing posts that we put up or just kind of being a booster or giving us your ideas that can be very valuable, just ask me or Bigby, and we'll get you into that group over on Instagram. And we have a lot of YouTubers in there, and you do not have to actually become a hero first. You become a hero when you donate.
Or when you participate in promoting.
Yeah, donations of money, time, effort, all that stuff. Money is time, obviously. John's Comics Kid says Mission 22 is a phenomenal charity. He donates every year. That is awesome. Absolutely, Richard. We really appreciate that. Hey, John, I didn't get a chance. I didn't see you in there. I'm sorry, man. What's up, John? So I did want to give the update, though, on what we've had happen kind of, sort of since.
Some seeds that I planted came to fruition, though, I heard.
Yes, absolutely. Bigby was doing awesome work over at Terrificon, and a couple of those things, or at least one of those big things, has kind of come home to roost, if you will. I am terrible at pronouncing Stephanie's last name. Do you want to explain who she is?
Check your car keys. Check your car keys.
That's how you check your car keys. I always want to say it's like something else, but
that's what she said. Check your car keys.
So if you're not familiar with Stephanie, she is an actress, probably most famous for her roles she was in Doom Patrol. She played Hammerhead, one of the alternate personalities of one of the characters, and she also was in Star Trek Picard for, I think, the latest season. I'm not totally caught up on that show, but yeah, she's an actress. She's an advocate for several different charities that are like cancer related, and she already was one for Mission 22 as well. So
she also did China in the Young Rock show that just came out.
Oh, cool.
She's like, so I have no hair, I have lots of hair.
No, that's awesome. So she's, I don't want to disclose exactly what she's doing yet, but she is, agreeing to help. So I think we're going to see some participation from her, which is really awesome. Also, let me see if I can get this pulled up real fast. I do have a donation that came through. I'd love to show it. Give me 1 second to get this pulled up. I'm in the wrong folder because I was looking at our live show stuff. I need to go to stuff for Heroes for Heroes. We did get E-Man's a fantastic channel, by the way. I highly recommend following him, and we'll do promotional posts so you'll be able to see his profile and all that kind of stuff later on. But he had an awesome artist named Fabian Gonzalez, who does lots of really cool like Transformer stuff. Get a piece done for us, and he's also donating some comics. I'm scrambling for time here.
It's all good,
so I can get this screenshot pulled up.
Chat about something while you're doing that. So Friday night, I went out to eat by myself at dinner here in my sleepy little town, and sitting across from me was in a different booth was a fella, and I said, "You look familiar. You're the mayor, aren't you?" And he says, "Yeah." And I said, "Rumor has it you're into comic books." And we struck up a conversation. And today I hung out all day with the mayor.
That's awesome. Is he into comic books?
He is into comic books, yes.
Nice.
Actually, he actually purchased some books from me.
There you go. It pays to know those people in high places, right?
Yes, yeah.
So real fast, this is a quick picture that E-Man snapped of this awesome Jetfire sketch cover that Fabian Gonzalez did.
Amazing.
Trying to get it centered here. I'll zoom in so you can get a little bit more detail on it, because I mean there's so much awesome detail here.
That's so cool.
Yeah, really cool. And he's sending some other stuff too, but this was something he reached out to Fabian on. Yeah, that's
so good.
So that'll be an item that's going to be up on the Heroes for Heroes, most likely the main event auction that we're going to do. And I'll have, when I get the item in, I'll take some, he just snapped this quick, so we had some kind of reference for what he was sending. I'll get a little bit of a better picture. I think he has it in a comic capsule, it looks like, so probably we'll pop a little bit more outside of that. And that's really awesome of him to do that. Very generous for both Fabian and for E-Man to reach out to Fabian to do that. So we really appreciate that.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm trying to think of what else we had for big news and Heroes for Heroes. I mean, just honestly seeing everybody come together in that planning group. I have Dr. Plagueis is sending off business cards for me to hand out at Rose City Comic Con and other events and places I go to. And also some stickers that we're going to do for the show. He showed me the final printed business card. It looks amazing. So shout out to him. He's sending those in the mail tomorrow. We're geographically pretty close, so those should get here plenty of time for Rose City. And I'll actually see him. Sounds like Saturday at Rose City Comic Con, but he won't be there Friday. So that's why he had to mail him, because he's like, well, we want to make sure we have him to hand out on Friday.
He was like, "Would you be opposed to me giving you goodies on Saturday?" I was like, "Goodies? Absolutely.
We like goodies.
Stick with the
goodies." Absolutely. So yeah, all those different ways that people can help, we're really appreciating it, and it means a lot to us. It's going to seem like almost like an avalanche is kind of how it works, especially like last year, for example. It was really like this way. It's like a little piece comes together here, a little piece comes together here, a little piece comes together here. We've already got pieces from Jim Starlin. We've got some awesome mini guitars from Jamie Tyndall. Comic Tropes is sitting in a sketch that we're going to auction off. I mean, there are things are starting to add up, and there's actually, I think, about 6 or 7 confirmed people that are sending comics. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, if you have anything that you want to donate, like a comic book that you think would be good for the cause, that you think would help kind of generate some donations, the slab, raw, signed, sketches, original art, all that kind of stuff is all very helpful. If you have anything you would be willing to donate, get in touch with Bigby or myself, and we'll talk to you about how to get that stuff to us so we can raise some money. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We're looking forward to Rose City Comic Con too. If you're going to be at Rose City Comic Con, also please reach out about that if you want to meet up and make sure we don't miss you. Like every time somebody tries to say like, "Oh, I'll see you at the show," be like, well, I don't always get the best cell reception on these show floors, especially inside the convention center that Rose City takes place at. So It's nice to have a pre-arranged, like, hey, I'll see you at this table or at this, landmark or whatever.
We're going to try to get the table at Red Robin at this time or something.
Yeah.
Right?
And this show, I'm usually I head out and do lunch or do something like that. On both days I'm at the show, I'm pretty much going to be focused on being on the show floor, because on Friday it's my birthday. I'm probably going to go hang out and do some stuff right after the show. I'm really primarily going Friday just to talk to artists because it's slow and see what the line looks like for Katie Sackhoff. It's the only day she's there. And if it's decent, I'm going to try to get in and get that done. Because I'd love to meet her. It'd be awesome. So that's kind of my birthday present.
Our access that we're getting is going to be, you can get in early.
I can't get in early on Friday because I have to pick up my daughter from school and get her to my parents.
I'm just telling you, man.
Yeah, I know.
But hey, I should put you in touch with the mayor. He said he's an autograph helper. He said.
At Rose City.
He helps people. He stands in line for people and gets autographs. So.
Oh, I thought you meant like a facilitator.
Like we talked about, the meeting the person in person might be important to you, but he does. That's what he does
for that one. But there's others where they have lines, and it's like, hey, you really have to either commit most of your day to being in those lines to get those autographs, or go do other stuff.
Yeah, that's what he said. He pays for what he's able to pay for the VIP, the top of the line badge lets you skip the line almost to every thing.
Yeah.
And so he pays for that, and then people kick him back a little bit to go get autographs for them.
No, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely try to look at the list, because that's actually one thing I'm gonna do tomorrow is look at the list and see what's going on. Speaking of people meeting up at Rose City Comic Con, Comic Tropes is going to be there Saturday, I believe. I hope I'm not speaking out of school. I believe he's involved with a panel. If I'm not supposed to say that, let me know. But that would be near the end of the day on Saturday. And so he'll be there for that. And hopefully we'll get, a chance to run into him again, meet up. That would be amazing. Chris, I'm going to try to remember my Vampirella Indiegogo cover you did, because I would love to get that thing remarked by you if possible, and at least give it to you so you can do it whenever you have time. And then I'm sure I'll see you again, but look forward to seeing you.
Mike from Lunch Money Comics is going to be there on Saturday.
Yeah, lots of people are going. It's going to be great. If you are going to be there, we definitely encourage reaching out. It'd be cool to meet up and, whether it's just for a photo or to get some stickers or to talk about Heroes for Heroes or, just to meet up with people. It's great. So
well, I have a lunch date. I'm supposed to go with Jen at lunch. So.
Oh, nice. The comics will break your heart, Jen.
Yeah, if she's able to make it.
So. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're making it, I'll take you to lunch.
He says my panel is at the end of the day at 6:15 p.m.
Oh, and he's watching. Oh, Mike's watching us right now.
And
lurker, Mike.
Right on.
Keeping my eyes on you.
No, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for you guys that like his channel, it's a chance to meet him. He's all the way over from the Boston area there. So I mean, yeah.
No, that's really cool. Yeah, definitely reach out. Yeah, Damien Sleepy Reader 666. I'm sure he'll be there. Yeah, he mentioned it on his social media post. He'll be there. I think Bueller is out of town for this one, so you probably won't see Travis.
Okay.
But yeah, I know there'll be a lot of people there, and it sounds like if you're available, really go check out Comic Tropes panel. We all know he's an amazing host, and I'm sure he's going to have a great panel there. I mean, look at this guy. He's working on it right now. He's ready for his show. I thought he was writing it for the RCC panel, but I'm sure he's on top of it.
Panel on how to get into comics without being a writer or artist.
Yeah.
So you're being like an editor or something, or I guess I have to.
Or maybe he means without previous experience.
Oh, without
maybe.
Previous experience. That's cool.
It's like a terrific hot reunion. Nice.
Yeah, that's Mr. Akins from What's on the Comic Rack, my roomie from Terrificon.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody there. I've had good times meeting up people at RCCC, and yep, you got to get the panel to find out. K-pop knows what's up. Also, hi Katie, how's it going? Reviewers, translators. Okay, cool.
Oh, that's cool. Somebody said the assemble is in regards to somebody when we were at Terrificon. They're like, it's like the Avengers assembly. All the YouTubers at Terrificon.
Nice. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to talk about our main topic, our origin story topic, or do you want to talk about comic news first?
Let's you do the origin story stuff first. I mean, that could be fun.
Yeah, we could do that. I have a feeling like a lot of people that probably tuned in for that.
Right.
Maybe I could be totally wrong. Actually, you know what? Here's what I'll do. In the chat, let us know, do you want to hear about comic news first, or do you want to hear about our origin story first? If you want to do hashtag origin in the chat, you actually get a chance to win some free stuff, by the way. So.
Your scroll is gone down there to tell that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was supposed to send Chris a picture of me with comics when I was a kid, and I couldn't. All I could do is find a picture of me with a pretty girl. He's like, that's not a comic. So
no, I said she's a very beautiful comic. But yeah, we do have some stuff to talk about with that.
Well, everybody wants the origin stuff. So.
Well, they're all doing the hashtag. I don't know. I think I kind of skewed the voting there.
You did skew. News first, but both. Okay, so the Tropes wants news.
Well, here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of it. You actually have a couple minutes to get those votes in for what you want to hear us talk about, either news or the origin story, because we are going to do our first commercial break. For those, like I mentioned earlier, we are streaming over on the EXP. They run advertising for other shows on the EXP and for their advertisers. And since we're streaming over there, we're part of that. We'll do our first ad break here for a couple minutes. If I hear in the chat that you guys want news, that's what we'll come back and do. If you want our origin story, we'll come back and do that. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Live from New York. What? Oh, sorry. Live from Cleveland? It's Friday night? It's Friday Night Live! With Nancy McCann. And Ricky. And sometimes Carlos. And featuring boxes and boxes of rare comics. Unique collectibles. Lots of smiles and conversations with new friends. Friday Night Live with Comics Unlimited. Friday night from 9 to 11 on The Experience.
Symphonic verses. Nocturne's romance. A song of romanticized darkness, dreaming death by sleep.
It's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Best Coast Comics. So we had, before the ad break there, we were talking about whether or not we're going to cover news first or our comic origins. And if I throw out the hashtag origins, which may be cruel, it looks like news is the winner to me. So I think we're going to roll in news. Okay. If you think that's unfair and you want to call for a recount, hit us up in the comments after the video uploads. Share with all your friends and tell them, go watch this video. Did news win or did origin win? And let them know that they should watch this video and figure that out.
Hey, Cliff.
Hey, what's up? So it sounds like news wins. So we're going to cover news first. Which sounds like a slogan for like a cable news.
I actually met Cliff at Terrificon too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So our first news story is about Jen Bartel. Kind of. That's the start of this story. So this is from Bleeding Cool. Rich over at Bleeding Cool wrote this one: why Jen Bartel stopped drawing She-Hulk covers for Marvel Comics. So there was according to Bleeding Cool, there was a mini Twitter storm regarding comic book artist Jen Bartel having an issue with her Marvel Comics work being sold digitally for premium internet bucks as a Marvel Snap card without any payment. Bartel has continued to speak out about this and related issues on social media. So somebody asked on Twitter, you stopped doing covers for Sensational She-Hulk after issue 7. Is that perhaps somewhat related or not at all? Sorry, I guess that was actually on an unanswered question on Reddit, asked the same 5 months ago. Does anyone know what's going on with Jen Bartel? She's one of my favorite covered artists, but she recently hasn't been putting out anything. Her Power Girl cover, which had an incomplete preview at my LCS website, was canceled. Her cover for Sensational She-Hulk 8 is not out, and she's not doing the main cover on 9. So people were kind of wondering what's going on. That's the gist of it here. So basically what's come out, by the way, this is a great point. She had 2 Eisner Awards for Best Cover Artist and was nominated for 2 more. Jen Bartel, amazing artist. And that included her work on She-Hulk. She replied, the very few times that I asked for even a small pay raise over a 4-year period, the answer was no. What would you do if your employer never gave you even a modest salary bump in nearly half a decade? Dave Raposa, who has drawn covers for Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Verse, Secret Wars, added, same for me. Jen Bartel continued to provide more details. I have a really loud fan belt or something outside my window. That was really annoying. Sorry if that came through the mic. Others criticized her for signing such a contract with Marvel and then complaining about it. And then she says, just an FYI, I signed the contract all artists are made to sign before I had ever done a single cover for any major publisher back in 2015, was never allowed to renegotiate the terms in any capacity. This is a standard. Awards and recognition did not give me negotiating power. Trust me, regardless of how much or how little I got paid, I'm still very grateful for the opportunities I've had in my career. I'm done towing this line publicly and pretending like I didn't have to accept an unfair level of exploitation, just like every other working artist. So basically, it's interesting to me, I think if there's anything else here that was very important to read. I need people to understand that while many of us would love to unionize, we legally cannot because we are classified as independent contractors by design by every major corporation that hires us. The best we could do is as a guild, but we aren't localized to one state or even country. In contract terms, it's about usage rights and licensing fees on different product formats. Before I worked in comics, I was a product and packaging designer who handled licensed art. Some art we could use only on ceramics, like plates and bowls, others on textiles, like pillows. If we wanted to use a piece of art that we'd only had a textile license on for a new ceramic collection, we had to go back to the artist and negotiate new terms. There's also limits on usage timelines, usually 1, 2, and 5 year licenses and physical goods. This is a standard. What's especially frustrating about the current contracts is that many new media digital use cases, such as popular mobile trading card games in those apps, didn't even exist when a lot of us signed the original artist contracts and were never allowed to be revisited. So that's her comments about this. So Baby, I want your reaction first, man. What do you think about that?
Sounds like the the image guys back in the day. I mean, was it McFarlane and Jim Lee and everyone? They were complaining about seeing their artwork on T-shirts and pajamas and party plates and everything else, and they weren't getting paid at all for it. So I mean, This sounds very same song, different verse. I mean, these guys are pumping out cool artwork and they're just slapping it on whatever they want because they have that right, I guess.
Yeah, and here's so the article specifically mentions Marvel Snap. If you don't play Marvel Snap, which by the way, I used to do Marvel Snap streams, I really enjoyed that game. This is what happens basically is there's a base card that you unlock for characters in the game, and then on top of that, you can get famous, variants or they're usually covers for comic books most of the time. Right. A lot of the base art was done by John Boy Myers. I know did a lot of the original base game art that came out, but other artists do that work. A lot of it is done by a studio called Pand Art Studio too, which is kind of interesting. I do kind of wonder about that studio because they don't actually credit individual artists. Makes me always wonder about that. But this is her variant for like She-Hulk, for example, that's out there. And I think she has some others in the game as well. But I just wanted to show you, she's talking about, even in the game, it'll say, if you click on the info tab, it'll say Jen Bartel the artist or whatever.
Right.
But she's talking about, sounds like a lot of other people are attributing it to this too, that she's not getting any royalties pay for that, for how they use it. But
so this is a spiff you can get though for your card. You can pay money and get a different skin for the card.
Yeah, and that could be in-game currency that like you get for free. It can be paid currency that you actually put real money into the game to get. Obviously, that's kind of the drive, as they try to get you to spend money to get that kind of currency or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like this age-old argument with comic artists too, because yeah, it's a little bit like what you're talking about with the image artists or with how a lot of artists and creators feel about how their stuff gets used in movies.
Right.
They don't really see much for that in terms of either credit or royalties. But also, like when you do the comic art, it's not really a new thing for it to be used in other sources,
Right.
on merchandise and that kind of stuff too. It's almost just like a new way to do that in a way.
Right. They're saying PJs and T-shirts and party plates and everything else that you could think of. They put your artwork on it. So.
But now I don't want it to come across like I don't agree with some of her points when I say that.
I'm not saying I don't agree either. I'm just saying that it's been going on for forever.
Yeah, exactly. And it is one of those things too, where some of the points that she brings up, specifically about, talking about being a design artist in other fields and how there's usually terms applied to it, like what they can use it on and how long. When you talk about renegotiating your pay, not being able to unionize and the way it's set up, I'm not 100% sure that she's 100% correct about each of those things, but I have a feeling that it's closer to right than wrong. But it is one of those things where I've always been an advocate for creators being paid for their work and well compensated for their work. But it does get to that weird kind of gray area where now it's like, okay, where do you draw a line for where you should receive some extra compensation?
Right.
It is also interesting too. This article, this Bleeding Cool article, makes a big point of this person talking about her Power Girl cover, which had an incomplete preview on my LCS website that was canceled. I do wonder about that one too, because what would that have to do with Marvel Snap? DC doesn't have a game like that I'm aware of.
Totally different company. I mean, what are
I mean, that's just what this person brought up too, so I may not be related in any way. But like I said, I'm always going to fight for artists getting more. I don't want to just say pay, but like proper attribution and proper compensation for what they do. Like if you are an all-star Marvel variant artist like Jen Bartel, I would hope that it's in Marvel's best interest as well as fans' best interest as well as Jen Bartel's best interest to correctly compensate her for what she's done. It's a little bit like, to me, like you sign NFL season's almost here. So it's like you sign an NFL rookie and it'd be like saying like, oh my gosh, this person turned out to be a star. Well, we signed him, so we'll keep him on the same rookie contract for the rest of their career.
Right. There's no renegotiating. You don't get anything better. Yeah. She made the Pro Bowl twice and
yeah. She was MVP twice and cool. We'll keep paying her scale basically.
Right.
Chris says, I think Jen was respectful and just answered the question honestly. She didn't bring it up to complain. And this info helps other artists potentially advocate for themselves. Oh, 100% agreed there. Yeah. I don't, the people that would harp on Jen for doing this, like, yeah, I think she was answering the question honestly. She's speaking out. And if anything, she's using her platform as an Eisner winner, who's, known for helping these covers sell. Marcus says, sorry, you signed the Disney Plus terms and conditions, case closed. The trade dress was pretty cool. I'll admit that. It's one of those things where it's a tough one for me. It's one of those things where I feel like when Marvel and DC are complaining about how they're doing and, oh, it's so hard to get good artists or any of those kinds of things, which they're not actively out there doing. But if you read between the lines on certain comic news articles and things that come out, things that happen in comic books, it does seem to be kind of like almost this pretty obvious thing looking from the outside, that they're like frustrated with talent and trying to retain talent, or losing talent to independent comic book publishers. But at the same time, what do you expect when you treat them like this? Like,
right.
I don't know. It's kind of where I land on it.
Nobody's going to stick around if you treat them like garbage. So
yeah, exactly. Like, it's like the shocked Pikachu face. Oh, we didn't pay him anything and they left? What?
Right.
Did you have any other thoughts on that one, man?
No. I mean, like I said, it reminds me of the Image thing. That's exactly. I mean, McFarlane talking about people walking around with his image, his pictures all over their shirts. And he's like, I didn't see a dime for that or that or that. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our next story. Oh, by the way, I didn't say hi to Comic Ozzy. I see him in the chat.
Hey, Ozzy.
What's up? Nice to see you, man. So the next article here, a news bit. This comes from tvline.com, although I've seen it reported in tons of places. I like to spread out the love a little bit. This is about Dead Boy Detectives being canceled over at Netflix after just one season.
Yeah.
Trend continues. I know a lot of people, every time I shared this somewhere or talked about it, I saw people sad about this, you know, like, oh, I was really enjoying it. And I mean, like, that's, you watched it, right, Bigby?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. So,
yeah.
Good.
Netflix has canceled DC Comics inspired series after just one season. It's been confirmed. The cancellation comes 4 months after Dead Boy Detectives first, and now only season dropped back on April 25th. Trying to remember if they gave a reason in this article. I have since seen some reasons speculated. It was an extension of Netflix's. Yeah, by the way, yeah, I mean, that's, if you didn't know, Dead Boy Detectives is a spinoff of Sandman.
I wonder if we're going to see the same actors playing the detectives in the Sandman stories.
I could easily see them doing like they've done some anthology type episodes and entries before in that show, even in season one. So I could definitely see that happening, or you know, as part of the main story, obviously too. But
right.
I would hope so, because I mean, it is supposed to be this beginning of this Sandman universe that we were seeing. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this. Netflix is ready to cancel their shows halfway through a season and still upload the finished episodes. Netflix is like Google; they canceled everything, and Cliff really enjoyed Dead Boy Detectives. Jay says, "Boo!" Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah. Well, they didn't really recast them because Doom Patrol wasn't connected to the Sandman universe,
right?
They just also happen to appear in Doom Patrol, because Doom Patrol is part of the larger DC universe of, like, you know, I like to call it the Max universe, but
stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Like, so the only thing I saw was some speculation, Richard, about why the show was canceled, and it has to do with what Comic Trips is saying here, that it's not a good time to be a Gaiman fan. You know, we've talked about it before. I don't have any relevant or noteworthy things to bring up on top of this, but for those that aren't familiar, Neil Gaiman did have some accusations and issued a statement regarding some stuff that happened, primarily with a babysitter. And there's some speculation I've seen out there that that's why this was canceled. And yet at the same time, you know, season 2 of Sandman is in full swing. So I don't know if I really fully buy that, but maybe there's more information that's getting ready to come out. Interesting. The Angels Chasing the Doom Patrol has the same role in this series. It was convoluted story of going from Max to Netflix. Okay. Oh, Chris is just rubbing salt in the wound here for Legends of Tomorrow, another show that got canceled too soon. Yeah. Okay. So I have to admit, like, I've watched that season of Doom Patrol. I have not seen Dead Boy Detectives yet. This, frankly, you know, stuff like this makes me like, why even bother now? Like, go invest my time in that show and Yeah, it's like what everyone was saying earlier about, Google and Netflix just canceling everything at the drop of a hat. Like these streaming shows, they're so risk adverse that they don't give anything time to develop.
Right.
And it makes me like nostalgic for, I don't necessarily want every show to come back to it, but remember when TV shows used to be like 24, 26 episodes long? Like,
well, I just watched. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, good. No, you first.
I was gonna say I just watched the interview with Matt Wagner on West Coast Avengers, and he was talking about the Grendel show. It's done. It just needs some special effects added to it. He says he has it on Blu-ray, but he can't. They're never going to put it out. That's Netflix again.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I cannot get excited about new TV shows now. Like I often wait to see if they're gonna like have multiple seasons to even watch. And then even then you will run into, somebody was posting about I love the Stargate franchise, both the theatrical film from the early 90s and then the follow-up TV series that are loosely related to that concept, spiritual successors in a way, reboots, if you will. Somebody was talking about the third Stargate TV show, which there was Stargate SG-1, there was Stargate Atlantis, and there was Stargate Universe, which was kind of a grittier Battlestar Galactica, free camera, documentary style filming, darker kind of show, right? And it got blasted because the first two shows were kind of light-hearted in a way, as far as like the tone, pulpy sci-fi kind of feeling, very like Star Trek or Farscape or that kind of tone of shows. And then they had this like darker, grittier show, and everybody hated it at the time. But a lot of people, it lasted 2 seasons, and they canceled Stargate Atlantis specifically to put effort into Stargate Universe. So not only were people upset that Stargate Atlantis got canceled, then Stargate Universe gets canceled before it even has a chance to really get going, because it was just starting to get good at the end of the second season when it was feeling itself out. And there's so many shows that like don't even get that far now.
Right.
I don't know. It's just
Chris, what was that rumor you're referring to? Pop it in the chat.
So he's talking about Josh Brolin is rumored to be playing Green Lantern Hal Jordan in the new DC stuff. I was going to bring that up here in a second. Yeah, I did see that, obviously, but I don't know how I feel about it. I did see somebody fan casting Chris Pratt as Hal Jordan, which I don't think Chris Pratt needs to be in everything, but the more and more I think about Chris Pratt playing Hal Jordan, I'm kind of like, all right, actually, I kind of get it.
I heard the rumor of him as Booster Gold.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, there's like that tendency. It's kind of like a Sydney Sweeney had the Black Cat casting rumor, right? Like people, any like character type that has the right body type kind of comes up. But I actually think that Chris Pratt would be really good, and I think Hal Jordan actually primarily. Glenn Powell, Glenn Powell keeps getting rumored as Cyclops. He's getting rumored as all these different people. Stargate Miami SVU. I love you guys. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one, but it is definitely interesting. I hear Ryan Reynolds is available. I mean, Ryan Reynolds always would have. I think he would have been a great Hal Jordan if the script had been there and the production quality. Oh, geez, yeah. So he's been Thanos, Cable. What's the third one?
Jonah Hex.
Oh, right. I haven't seen that movie. Daniel, I'm trying to remember if you're the one. Did I hit you up about sending me your address? I think maybe you did.
Winner? Was he a previous winner?
You're a winner. Voice every character for Creature Commandos. I mean, that by the way, that's part of it, is whether or not James Gunn will do Green Lantern proper. Chris Pratt and James Gunn clearly have something special going on there. So just like Nathan Fillion coming in to play Guy Gardner should be pretty interesting.
No, I mean, I'm sure you get a good relationship with different actors.
Yeah,
going forward, and you're gonna have that ability to bring them in for projects. So
Moving on to our next news story. This one, people might be wondering why the heck I'm talking about this. This is actually, to me, like maybe one of the most important stories for the week. I love reading the IDW My Little Pony stuff to my daughter. She's a huge My Little Pony fan. That's, I say read comics every day. A lot of times those comics I'm reading are My Little Pony comics to my little girl. And this is speculation. I want to throw this out here. Complete speculation. Just like the Josh Brolin Green Lantern casting rumor. But it's good speculation based on some interesting evidence. So IDW has had the licenses. I actually didn't know they had the American Girl license, but I know they've had the My Little Pony license for a while. But this is kind of cool the way that Rich deduced this here. So it looks like IDW might have lost their final Hasbro license in My Little Pony from recent solicits and solicitations. Kind of this same thing, isn't it? My Little Pony Storm of the Zephyr Heights 1 is out in September. It's a standard size comic at $3.99, but Zephyr Heights 2 and 3 for October and November are double-sized issues at $6.99 with multiple and changing pencilers, suggesting that IDW is trying to finish the series and get it out the door before the end of the year, as well as publishing oversized Classics Reimagined, The Odyssey, Best of Discord, Best of Princess, and Kentucky Roller Derby in November. So, points out that the young girl market for comic books has been booming of late. IDW is having difficulty keeping its license because, we all know Skybound, mentioned right here. That means Skybound is going to get My Little Pony just like they have the Energon universe, which is really interesting. Yeah, Marcus just said it. I'm interested in this. I'm curious, and it is just the right of, we talked to Nick Barucci from Dynamite a few episodes ago. Highly recommend checking out that conversation. We talked about licensed comics and licensed franchise properties and that kind of stuff quite a bit in that particular discussion, as we talked about some of the properties that Dynamite's kind of caretaker of now with some of that work. And it's fascinating to me, like we dive into the business behind this. So interesting to follow this one.
It was funny, some of the stuff that we had, we kind of shouted out or alluded to, and then he was like, "Oh, hey, by the way."
Stay tuned, right?
Right. There was a couple of things. Nick was in the chat one night, wasn't he? And he said, "Hey, by the way, some of those things."
Yeah. To me, it was like the equivalent of like doing the eyes emoji when somebody says something and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute. What are you saying?" A viewer asked Kryptonite if Bleeding Cool has something against IDW. Interesting. I don't know if there could be more to that. I'm actually, Bleeding Cool is, it's funny. It's kind of a longer story than I meant to be. So I put out a poll on my community tab on my YouTube channel. What's your favorite comic book news site? And I specifically was asking for news sites, not, Twitter follows or YouTubers or something like that. But like, what is your favorite actual comic book news site? Like CBR, comicbook.com, ICV2, IGN Comics, that kind of stuff. And I did that poll, and Bleeding Cool is on there because I have stated over and over again that I'm not super satisfied with the state of comic book news journalism. I think it's a very immature field. There's a lot of clickbait and gotcha journalism that happens in that space, and so I'm always on the lookout for new news sites and what people's favorites are. And anyways, all that to say, I'm not as familiar with Bleeding Cool as probably some others are, so I don't know if they have an editorial slant against IDW or not, or if that's just because this article came up or something like that. That is interesting. Yes, that's a great, when I say the clickbait, that's definitely part of it. Lots of negativity too, Richard. I completely agree. Ooh, there's a theory, Marcus. I've got a fly in here that's going to be maybe a moth or something that keeps buzzing me, and it's like it's starting to annoy me. So maybe it's a spy from Bleeding Cool. I don't know.
Well, the negativity thing has been a topic lately in the comics YouTube thing. Like, does
100%
does negativity sell? How many times do people click on something negative over something positive? So
Dan does a great job. I agree. Dan does a great job, Jay. Yeah, actually, there's a really great, I rarely get a chance to watch these. I just watched an interview that Mickey Swagglehouse just did with Brian McFly from Beyond Wednesdays. And a huge topic as part of it was whether or not comic drama is good, bad, a selling point, or how it should be approached, discussion around that. And yeah, that negativity, that drama definitely is happening. It's out there in force, and it's only like gaining steam. So it's one of the reasons we try to handle, we will talk about these stories, but we try to handle them in a more even keel kind of a way, or at least that's the attempt that we're trying to make. Hopefully capture the positivity.
For sure.
Yeah. Ooh, this is like almost like a humble brag, Chris. I don't care about breaking the news. I sat on the Skybound Transformers G.I. Joe stuff for a year. Wow. That would be hard to do. Yeah, and like, to be clear, like I've broken a couple news stories in my day. Had the pleasure of doing it. It is fun, but it's not like my big thing. But I have actually, and I've talked about this on the show before, I've literally thought about trying to start my own comic book news site, to just try to offer like a better editorial presence, essentially, like a more stable and more journalistic standards being used than what I see in a lot of comic journalism. No, Chris, you're fine. I thought you were joking, like the way you put it or something. That was all good. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was saying, it seems like a lot of what we get is just rumor mongering, and a lot of it's not even true stuff that's coming out. So, or like there's a lot of based on negativity, or grab something and twist it and turn it into, like Chris was saying, the Jen Bartel thing, where maybe she wasn't really even trying to be that way about it, just answering a question, and they turned it into a news story,
100%. And it's one of those things where I see and hear that, and then I mean, there's channels I follow, or kind of, they've trickled out some behind the scenes stuff that have painted comics journalists in kind of a rough light of being in it for kickbacks or exposure, or this happened a lot in video game journalism, which, by the way, video game journalism is a bigger field, and you'd see a lot of like video game publishers bringing people to like cons on their dime, and then the implication being, you're going to write nice things about us, right? And that happens quite a bit, and some of that happens in the comic industry as well. Like, people, I'm not leveling this accusation at anybody specifically when I say this, but like, people will do things in exchange for that information source, or exchange for exclusivity, and that happens in normal journalism too. But it has to happen within reasonable standards. And I mean, gosh, journalism in general has been struggling for a while, so it's not just comic books.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Bleeding Cool says they laid off their publisher, Mark Doyle. Of course, it says IDW laid off their publisher. I wonder if that's kind of related to all the stuff going on. Maybe, I mean, that also probably helps explain the comment you got, adding some context to that too. We'll definitely follow along with that. But I want to talk about something slightly more positive. And I threw this in here because I came across this, and I know, first of all, we would have talked about it anyway, but I know you've got kind of a history with ElfQuest, right?
That's in my origin story.
Yeah, man. So that's why I wanted to tie this in. I wanted to tease that a little bit. I saw this and I was like, oh, we're definitely talking about this tonight. So Dark Horse,
I got that first the Warp graphics at Terrificon. I picked up a number one, the first appearance of ElfQuest.
Yeah. I think we were at a show, and I think it was the Frankenstein Comic Swap, and you were talking about ElfQuest a little bit, and I kind of always like to try to file that away in the back of my head. But this comes from us, by the way, from, speaking of comics journalism, ICV2. They're kind of a little bit more retailer focused news site, but I do like to go there because you get stuff that you don't find at other news sources. So Dark Horse is releasing color hardcover editions of the entire original Quest storyline of ElfQuest by Wendy and Richard Pini in 2025. The company announced they are going to be the first book is going to come out on February 25th, and into bookstores, and February 26th in comic book stores. The color collections of the early material were originally published by Dawning and were more recently published by DC Comics in archive editions. But these are the first color collections from Dark Horse. It's going to be 176 pages and about 6.5 by 10 inches, and retail for $29.99, which is pretty cool.
I wonder if those are recolored, because I watched Wendy was never happy with the coloring that happened on them. So.
That is interesting. That's good to know. I'm not sure on that one, but maybe as we get closer to the release date, we'll find out more about that. Yeah, great move by Dark Horse. I totally agree.
Absolutely, great story too. If you guys haven't read it, I mean,
yeah, I've never read it, so this might be what gets me pushes me over the top there.
It's cool, like sword and sorcery, elves, cool stuff. I mean, it's not your usual take on it. So yeah, I've definitely thumbed through a few, and it's like, this looks very interesting. So Chris says he believes it was recolored. Ooh, he wants to know, do you know how Wendy and Richard met? I watched, there's a YouTube documentary about them, and I watched it and I can't remember. I don't remember, Chris. Lay it on me. She was playing with Red Sonja going around at Comic Cons, and his day job was he was some sort of a computer person, I believe.
He was Mr. Computer?
No, he worked for a larger, like a tech company of some sort.
IBM.
Yeah, and then he eventually left that in the letters page of Silver Surfer. Oh, that's right. They met through. They taught. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you guys haven't seen that documentary on YouTube, check it out. It's really cool. I think it's titled like Marvel and DC turned these two down, and they changed in response. They changed the course of comics history, or something to that effect. Because the original Warp Graphics was that's in the 70s, and it's the beginning of the idea that you can publish your own stuff through the direct market and be successful, and that's where a lot of people took inspiration from. So,
right on. So we do have 2 more news stories to cover. We will get to those, but first I do want to take our next ad break. So we are going to do a little quick ad break, and when we get back from that, we are going to talk about our final 2 news stories before we talk about the comic book origins of Bronze Age Nerd and Bigby McFly, the comic book guy. We'll be right back for that in 1 minute. See you soon.
Whoa. Did you miss it? Yeah, they can go by pretty fast. Let's slow down the footage.
Welcome. It's time to skim some comics. Miles Morales Spider-Man, I will just tell you that Miles is very important in his role as a vampire. So
it's fine. If you like Hercules, read it. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. It's fine.
The art is still stunning. There's a panel, little spoiler, there's a panel in this where Chitauri first hits Lion-O, and he is the best "did she really just hit me" face I've ever seen put in a comic book.
Wow, live reviews of new comic books so you can be ready for New Comic Book Day. What is this? Oh, I see. It's Minute to Skim It. Part of the experience.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
That'd be really great. Thanks.
Welcome back to Best Coast Comics. I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I'm joined by
Brian, aka Bigby McFly, the comic guy.
Nice. Nailed it. We're getting so much better at that. You can tell we're almost professional. We're so professional that one of my favorite things about these live streams is that we're always dancing when the music's playing backstage. Like, we can still see each other while the ads are playing, and we're always dancing and goofing off, and it's great. Yes. So we're just getting ready to wrap up the news. We got 2 more news stories to cover. The first of which is Marvel is beginning its kind of, I should say Star Wars really more than Marvel, even though they're happening in the Marvel comic books. But Star Wars is kind of entering its next era of storytelling, which we just had some shocking kind of news with the wrap up of the Acolyte, and that sort of probably didn't spell too good of things for the High Republic era in TV form, at least, although comics and books are continuing. But we are getting kind of a new era in Star Wars storytelling being revealed to us. And I say new, some things have happened in this time frame, but this is really going to kind of explore kind of the post-Return of the Jedi era. Before I get into that real fast, I just want to make sure I get a chance to recognize this comment from Gore. Winnie Pini and Dave Sim inspired many creators with their books, and I think contributed to the great 80s boom in independent comics. Yep. Very good point. Very good point. Definitely worth pointing out. And I also want to say hello to Comics Limited. What's up? Thanks for all your support, man. Trav's great channel. Also, go follow Trav, Comics Limited on YouTube. Great channel. And Callie. Callie, what's up, Callie? How's it going? Hey. Always nice to see y'all here. So this is basically kind of telling the story of the Battle of Jakku, which is, if you don't know, that's the planet that Rey's from in the sequel trilogy. But we really don't have, Star Wars has been big in the new canon of telling the stories between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. We weren't really getting the original Rebellion era stories from the post Return of the Jedi kind of perspective. There is a little bit that happens with the Inferno Squadron and kind of the very beginning of the First Order that we learned about. I think Star Wars Battlefront and Squadrons, I think, were the first games to really kind of cover that stuff. But we learned a little bit about that through those stories, and kind of like how the Emperor's plan for what would happen if the Empire was destroyed and all that kind of plays out. This, by the way, is coming from us from comicbook.com. And there's basically 3 limited series that are going to come out that are going to tell the story of the Battle of Jakku, and the Insurgency Rising is the first installment of that. And I think it's exciting to get kind of like more filled in kind of tidbits from this this kind of era that we don't have a lot of stuff from before, like the Mandalorian and some of the stuff that happens, obviously later on with the story that we do get a chance to learn about. Especially since it deals with the original trilogy characters. You deal with Luke on his beginning, of this sort of new Jedi type of order type of launch that he does. I don't know how much of that's really going to take place in the story that's focused on the Battle of Jakku, but it does kind of seem to pick up right after where Return of the Jedi left off, which is a big deal. So very, 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 very cool. I'm excited for that. Your thoughts on Star Wars, Bigby?
I think that's really cool, actually. It's about time we start filling in some gaps and getting to see more of that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll know all the little moments between all the little scenes and stuff. But I mean, that's one way to look at it. But I'm actually happy because that's an era of Star Wars. Like, when I was thinking about sequels of Star Wars, I wanted to know, like, what happened next, right? Because New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, they're not very far apart. All 3 of the original trilogy, and then we don't know what happens right afterwards for the most part.
Yeah, there's such a void in that storyline. So yeah, it'd be nice to see that filled in, and maybe they can make a little more sense with some of the stuff that's happened. So we'll see. Yeah.
By the way, Richard, I do kind of agree with you, in a way. Focusing on like Knights of the Old Republic and all that stuff would be fantastic. But I do think that, like, seeing Prime Luke is, because at this point it's pretty obvious we're not going to get that in. Probably not going to get that, I should say, in most forms, as Mark Hamill is basically retired from Star Wars at this point, according to him. I mean, what we probably could see is they did that kind of weird amalgam of different actors playing Luke in, I think it was Book of Boba Fett's weird Luke Skywalker episode they did. After the season 2 of the Mandalorian finale, we got to see that kind of prime Luke era, and they did like an actor. They transposed Mark Hamill's digital face on top of it, and then I think they did like a voice trickery to make the voice sound right. So, oh my gosh, don't tease me, Chris. I need my jacks on. But yeah,
I've seen pictures of what's the guy that plays Winter Soldier,
Sebastian Stan.
He looks a lot like Mark Hamill in his young years. So.
Yes, and the actor that they had playing young Mark Hamill, young Luke Skywalker, I should say, not really young Mark Hamill, looks great too. But yeah, I think Sebastian Stan's finally, he's not getting younger. He's kind of maybe aging out of playing that age bracket, but he could certainly play like, he's probably in his 40s, right? Like mid 40s or whatever. He's probably in his 30s. I'm probably wrong about that. The age-old question, Jay. I want to get to our last news story here real fast. And by the way, I really want to thank Comic Tropes, because I would not have seen the story if I hadn't watched. I mentioned it earlier. Go watch the Weekly Spinner Rack over on his Pros and Cons channel, because I didn't know about this story until I read this, until I saw it on his show. I will be completely out of my element here for the most part, because I know nothing about the manga of things. But basically in Florida, they banned a manga. And this is happening. This is happening across the country. I've seen other stories about this, about certain manga being banned. It's called, I am going to butcher the pronunciation, Sasaki and Miyano. After a complaint was lodged, they decided to ban it at a school board meeting. The funny thing is they recommended alternatives like Chainsaw Man, Seven Deadly Sins, A Silent Voice, and Sailor Moon. Now, I only know about Chainsaw Man through things like cosplay and memes and stuff like that, Reddit posts.
Pretty violent.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I mean, in the name Chainsaw Man, just that alone, it should be like, wait a minute.
The character, he's the guy with the chainsaw for a head, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, yeah. Again, I'm not into it as much, but I've definitely seen stuff about it. And yeah, to point this out, like Chris was saying, the one that was banned is very tame.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it does contain some content that is considered LGBTQ plus. I'm guessing that played pretty heavily into the decision to ban that. But then the one that they recommend, as Chris points out, fun but very dark. And also, as far as I understand, completely wildly inappropriate by most people's standards. So this kind of is just a weird, like we talked about this before with some comics that have been banned, and now obviously we're talking about manga. Sometimes Mouse was banned a while ago in a school district. We talked about that on one of our shows. It's just perplexing sometimes, the things that are banned and the things that, in this case, are hilariously suggested in their place. Like that is just bizarre. Yeah, got to push that violence. It's kind of that weird American Puritan trope that to use for lack of a better word of we're okay with all the violence in the world, but the instant you start talking about sex stuff,
right,
completely inappropriate. And even then, like I don't necessarily think this is a very sexual comic or something like that, from what I understand, which is I'm not 100% familiar with it, but. So it's BL, which stands for boys love, but it's about romance and flirting, not sex. There you go. So I think in the people's minds that banned it probably is about sex, even though that's not true, from what Chris is saying, because I definitely trust his opinion on this. What's up, Psychotron? How's it going, man? Welcome to the show. It's just one of those things that's depressing to see content banned for certain reasons. But it's just almost bumblingly bad to like offer content that is probably objectively worse in its place.
Yeah. I mean,
Florida, what you doing? What you doing, Florida?
Florida man.
Good one. So with that kind of wraps up our main news story, and I'll follow up on some of these news stories in the future. We will follow up in the future if we learn more about them. But I that one, just the concept alone was like, oh my god, I can't believe this. So I had to cover it, even though I'm woefully unprepared to talk about it. But I thought it was fascinating. I do want to mention before we get into our main event for the evening, which is talking about our comic book origin stories. You're not that late. You're just in time to talk about our comic book origins. They found it objectionable that it read from right to left. Oh my god, I'm dying. That's great. So good. That's like laser right there. But you're just in time, Sicko, to hear us talk about our comic book origin stories. I will say that we are going to feature community art later in the show. We do have a good batch of community art.
We got a good batch this week. We got a good response. I don't know. Were you able to get all the people I kept getting with the last minute? I was like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I got a little something from everybody. I literally was pulling down one of yours right as the show started, or right as I jumped into the show. So I only have one of yours. I've got one of mine. We're not in the greater competition, but we do share ours too. And then I've got, I think, like 4 other people's art in there too, a couple from each, and then we've got a bunch saved up for future shows. So I'm excited to show that off. But we are ready for 23 Stephen King books. Interesting.
Wow.
Hey Derek, have a great night. Thanks for being here.
Bye, Derek. Thanks
Derek's off to go ban some books in Florida. I'm just kidding, Derek. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. Bronze, I said on the Discord, but you looked like a bouncer at the upscale club who's super nice, but would demolish you if you get out of line in that thumbnail.
Oh.
I got so many comments around that time that I look like a cop. At every party I went to, it was always, you look like a cop. I don't know what about me at that age, but
my comment was, look at that big sexy teddy bear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still here. So would have been better if it was 19. That's funny. So yeah, we're going to talk about our comic book origins. And but first we gotta address the super chat. Comic Trope wants to know the favorite comic you read this week. Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm not reading anything new, Chris, so it's gonna be, I'm reading old G.I. Joes, and I mean, I'm really enjoying it, but and old X-Men. So
I finished up the Duke series from Skybound, the G.I. Joe Duke stuff. Which is one of the titles that's in the Energon universe. So I finished up that. I would probably say I enjoyed that the most. I did read, the only other thing I really read that wasn't My Little Pony, like I talked about earlier to my daughter, which is funny stuff. It's great stuff for her age bracket. But I did read Blade. What is the name of it? The Daughter of Blade story arc, because I'm reading the build up to Bloodline. It's called Bloodline, Daughter of Blood Hunt. I'm mixing all the bloods up. Blood Hunt. I'm reading the reading guide on Marvel Unlimited. It's like the lead up to Blood Hunt. So I read the Moon Knight arc that leads up to Blood Hunt in that reading guide from the most recent series, and then the Bloodline, Daughter of Blade story. Both were okay, but yeah, Duke's probably my favorite that I read of stuff this week.
Oh, I saw a thing. I was sitting down, I was eating dinner, and on YouTube they had somebody was doing a walkthrough of the new Aliens versus Avengers book. That looked really cool. I mean, it takes place in the future, it's like a dystopian future with aliens and elderly Avengers and
yeah, I want to check that out. Space Case, William of Newberry. I've heard good things about that. I really want to read that. I'm not behind on it. I'm not caught up. I'm not up to speed on it, man. I'm not good on words today.
Words.
John says you like Frankenstein and the new Nice House. Okay, so I haven't read anything since Nice House came back from its hiatus. So I need to go back and read some of that too.
Nice House by the Sea, I think, is that
by the lake. Oh, the new one. Yeah, the new one. Yeah. So let me pull up. I'll pull up your slides first because you were smart in sending me some stuff before this to talk about.
Smart, it was annoying. There's that.
Well, I mean, I was going to say you did it a little last minute, but it was a good call to do.
I was going to go grab the books and I didn't have time, and I was like, "Hey, I could just pull some pictures up. That would probably be better."
At least you didn't like come at me and say, "Hey, pull these up for me."
Yeah. Hey, while I'm talking, can you just pull some things up?
But I do have that ready to go. They're in order, I think. But I have that ready to go for when you're ready. But I want you to start off this conversation first.
Okay. So, comic book origins. So Chris is very methodical. If you guys don't know, he's like, so how are we going to talk about this? So I'm like, all right. So we're talking about first exposure to comics. So like, when I was very young, like before kindergarten, my parents were they avidly went to flea markets and garage sales and stuff. It's kind of just a thing that they did. And so I was exposed to a lot of comics, just seeing them around, and they would pick up, bargain bundles of comics at flea markets for me. And so I got to do a lot of reading and learning about the superheroes that way. I had a lot of Amazing Spider-Man and a lot of Superman, and then a lot of funny books too, like the funny animal stuff. But so at one point my parents said they weren't going to buy me any more comics unless I could prove to them that I was actually reading them. So I very quickly learned how to read. So comics are responsible for me learning to read. And I can still remember, like, one of the ones that had the biggest impact on me was a giant size, and I didn't send you a clip of that one, but it was a giant size Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, a Neil Adams book. It's the wedding of Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad, I believe, is the storyline.
Nice
book. So, but I didn't really like collect comics or anything back then. It was just, a kid enjoying comics and destroying them, basically reading them and enjoying them. There were, a lot of that stuff inspired me to draw. There was I remember there was some big double page spread in a lot of the DC comics at that time that had the entire Justice League on it. It was an ad for candy bars or something, but it had the Justice League. So I was trying to recreate that as a kid. So those were kind of my first memories of being exposed to comic books. I think that ElfQuest happened before I actually started reading and collecting comics. Or I would identify as a collector. I started getting the ElfQuest, the big oversized books from the local library, and checking those out and reading them. And those were just really, really cool stuff. There's probably some stuff in there that a kid my age shouldn't have been reading. But
was it Chainsaw Man?
No, little scantily clad ladies and such. So, but
hey, I mean, you got to keep them reading somehow,
right? So the first comic that next thing we should probably talk about is the first comic that you bought for yourself or remember buying personally, and so that would be G.I. Joe number 26. I was going to a school that was far away. I grew up out in the sticks, and my parents took me to school down in closer to Hazeldale to a private school. I don't know why they decided that I needed to go to a private school, but I did. So every night after school, my mom would take us to this plaid pantry, and she gave us $1.50 we could spend on whatever we wanted. And so we'd always, you get candy and chocolate milk or whatever. I saw that on the spinner rack, and I was like, oh, whoa, wait, that Snake Eyes, they got this origin. I've got to find out. So pick that up, and then every month on the spinner rack, I would come in every week with my money to spend for the evening, and I would look to see and pick up the new issue. And so that was kind of my beginnings of starting to collect comics. And so I was, kind of collecting G.I. Joe, but I wouldn't say I wasn't like trying to bag and board or anything like that. Yeah. But I've always been kind of a hustler person trying to make, I never had a lot of money growing up. So I was trying to make ends meet and make to be able to buy more comics or buy more whatever. And so I would trade for things, or I would, we would go to Costco and I would save up my money and buy a big thing of bubble gum. And then I would take it to school and I would sell the bubble gum piece by piece at a markup. And then I would
hustling
back and buy, then I would have some money to buy comics, and I would buy another box of bubble gum. And pretty soon I had a couple guys working for me who were selling bubble gum for me, and piece by piece, and they would give me, they get a little kickback, I get a little kickback, I would get, go buy more bubble gum. And in the morning we'd meet up and I'd be divvying out the packs of gum. And my parents got called into school and they said, he can't do this anymore. This is how drug dealers get started.
Say it's like a drug ring, but for comics and bubble gum.
This is bubble gum. But that was how I was funding but people would pay me in different ways. Some people would bring me comic books. And that's where I got my first exposure to X-Men. I knew a friend of mine was reading X-Men, and somebody brought one to school and offered it for some gum. They brought me X-Men number 175. And I picked it up and I told my friend, hey, I've got an X-Men for you. And he says, I already have that one. And I was like, oh. And he's like, no, read it. It's really good. And so I read it and became hooked instantly on X-Men. And then I would say I was probably a collector from issue, the first one I can remember, I'm going to get a subscription box at a shop and be collecting, was X-Men 193. And was collecting comics ever since then. So it was, G.I. Joe and X-Men were my two first introductions to the drug we call comic books and collecting.
The drug we call Bazooka Joe, but comic books.
yeah. It was hilarious. This is how drug dealers get started. Well, I didn't kind of, or so does the same thing with multi-level marketing Amway or something. So I did a lot of trading and stuff with my friends, and Travis from Comics Limited is one of my friends that I would trade and read comics with, and we're still friends to this day. And that was 40 something years ago.
I didn't know you knew him that long. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I've known Travis since I was in junior high school. So there's some beginnings of the origins of my collecting. If you guys like that kind of stuff, Chris and I have talked about doing more stories of collecting and how things affected us growing up. And if you guys would like to hear more of that, let us know. But
yeah,
Chris,
sure.
So what was your first exposure to comic books, Chris?
So there was this kid at my school, and he was always trying to get me to buy bubble gum. So I'll tell you, my earliest memories of comic books are reading Beetle Bailey and Sad Sack comics that were at my grandparents' house. That were my dad had two brothers. It was 3 kids in the family, and they were all a few years apart. And so they would pass comics around, that kind of stuff. So there were Sad Sack, Beetle Bailey comics there. And I would read, comic strips like Garfield and stuff like that in the newspaper. Yes, kids, there used to be comic strips in newspapers. Newspapers were this thing that they'd bring around to your house every morning. No, anyways. So I would read things like that. And those were cool, funny, kind of cute things to me or whatever at the time that I enjoyed. Somewhere along the line, probably because of the Beetle Bailey comics seemed to be my favorite. And my dad I was always playing like Army when I was a kid, stuff like that. So my dad got me into G.I. Joe toys pretty early. I think he thought they'd be a really cool thing to give me. And then as I liked him and I watched the cartoon, at one point, and I don't know what issue it was. I wish I could remember. It would be amazing. At one point, he gave me a G.I. Joe comic book. And I don't know how, but I know I had a couple other comic books that had to have been like somebody gave them to us. I don't think they were bought for me, but there was like the first Masters of the Universe comic, He-Man comic was around. I know that there was like a copy of Superman 70 or 7. I can't remember. There was a 7 in it, but I remember the cover. I see it every once in a while. I'm like, oh, that comic book. It had like coffee ring stains on it. He might have got these from his work or something. I think that people were just passing around. And so anyways, but the first comic I remember being given was an early G.I. Joe issue. I do not remember what issue it was. And it kind of became this thing with him. Like he was a baseball card collector, sports card collector. And he could tell like I liked collecting things. So he would go around on his different like work trips he'd have to do. As a forester here in the Pacific Northwest. So he'd go all over Washington and Oregon for his work. And he'd stop at comic book shops along the way that he saw. And he'd go in, and eventually we had like a checklist of all the comic books from the G.I. Joe run that he made like on his work computer. Spreadsheets weren't a thing that many people were using back then. And it would like basically made a spreadsheet. It was like a checklist. And we go around and try to complete the set, basically, is the way we looked at it because of the baseball cards and what we collect.
Right. That's a very baseball card collector way to collect them.
Exactly. And so the first comic book I remember getting from G.I. Joe, and it's not the first one, but the first one I remember getting is G.I. Joe Special Missions #1.
Oh, very cool.
I wasn't doing my
Mike Zeck, right? Cover, I believe.
Yep, Mike Zeck cover. It's actually this one right here. I know for a fact I had G.I. Joe comics before this, but that's just the first one that I can remember, being given. And I've kind of famously told the story. Like I got a copy of G.I. Joe #1, and #2, which would have been pricey back then too. So that was a big deal. But they were definitely later on. Like I started filling in back issues basically. But like by issue 50, I was reading pretty regularly. I know that. So it had been something before issue 50. Right. I think it might have been, I think it's like 34, something like that. It's the cover that has like wetsuit on a devil fish.
That's actually another Mike Zeck cover.
Yeah, exactly. But there were some other comic books floating around. The first comic book that I bought from a newsstand, and I'll pull up the window here that I have this shirt on. The whole X-Men thing was like getting ready to kind of, I think it started at Pizza Hut or something like that. And I was kind of interested in these characters. So this was the first comic book that I bought at a newsstand that was a superhero comic that I bought specifically, like, hey mom, can I get this? That kind of thing. And, but I've been reading G.I. Joe comic books for a while before this, but this was the first one. This is Larry Hama's amazing Wolverine run. This story was the beginning, I think, of the 3-part storyline that has Wolverine going with Jubilee and Rogue to the Savage Land. And I absolutely loved this run. I mean, it was just awesome. It was an awesome little contained 3-issue story arc. Savage Land was cool. There's dinosaurs. There's like mind control, the mutates, all that stuff going on.
Is that Sauron in the background?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a huge fight with Sauron and Wolverine at the climax of the storyline, because this is when I started reading Wolverine. I'm sure I'm really nostalgic for it, but this is like the era of Wolverine where it was like, he's in a fight with a bad guy. He had his Achilles or his hamstring got cut, and he's like literally like buying time to heal. This isn't like I'm Wolverine, I'm going to instantly heal from this. Right. I need a few minutes to heal. And so he's like trying to keep Sauron talking, and he's trying to like distract him and get through the fight. So he's back up to like, full strength or whatever. Very fun stuff. I love that.
I think we discussed that a little bit a while ago. We were talking about, like, was it during the discussion of the Deadpool movie? We were talking about the healing factors.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Definitely could have been. It might have been Larry Hama when we were talking about him when he's talking about kind of trying to step down eventually from doing art because it's hurting his hands.
Okay.
It might have been during that too. I can't remember. But around that, not much longer later, I went to my first comic book shop specifically looking for X-Men stuff because I was into X-Men, the cartoon and all that. And this was the first comic book that I ever bought at a comic book shop, Uncanny X-Men 280. It was like a recent back issue. What's that?
Some Jim Lee action there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I started off doing quite well. A high bar was set.
Right. Why is the Rogue's costume torn up like Wolverine's?
It's a good question. Neither is Jean Grey's.
Right. Like his top is completely gone.
I think you're making a really good case here for both of those characters should have had a little bit more battle damage, huh? By the way, this story is a pretty terrible one to read. Like if you're just jumping in, but this is to answer
a pretty convoluted time to jump into X-Men.
Yeah, but this kind of answers Colossus Collector's question from earlier. Bigby and Bronze, what is your number one favorite comic book character? Well, for whatever reason, right from the get-go, when I got exposed to X-Men, I fell into absolutely loving Cyclops. I don't know what it is about. I think it was maybe just his design, maybe like I was like, oh, he's the leader. Like the leader is usually a cool character, right? Like, depending on how you look at it, Duke or Hawk from G.I. Joe, like was some of my favorites. Although I really like Snake Eyes and ended up lifetime being my favorite character from G.I. Joe, besides like Baroness or Scarlet, because I always like those kind of characters as well. But yeah, this is kind of just where I fell in, where I zoomed in. Was with Cyclops, and so this obviously features Cyclops. I was like, oh my gosh, he's like blasting, like something's going on. I don't think I even knew that was Professor X at the time because I was, I just didn't put two and two together. He's kind of wearing like a strange uniform there. But yeah, that's what I was
like a light suit or something.
yeah, exactly. Like I didn't really know 100%. And I think it was also kind of one of those things where it's like we talk about comics and learning how to read and stuff like that. So I think I was a pretty good reader when I was a kid. Like I remember I read Jurassic Park when I was in like 4th grade or something like that, like the novel, and obviously and I was reading stuff like that. Like I was pretty into reading. And this comic book on at the bottom, it says Pyrrhic Victory, and I actually knew what that meant at the time. I don't know how old I was, but I was pretty young, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like it's going back to the mythology, and I knew what a Pyrrhic Victory is and all that kind of stuff. I was like, that's kind of neat. Like I liked comic books that I thought were going to teach me something. Like I loved Beast a lot because he was always using like these, $5 words and stuff like that.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so I guess no bubblegum ring stories to share with that. But that's around the time that I started like bagging and boarding because I was buying from comic shops, and I was always like I was going and spending all my allowances at the local comic shop, which I'll say because I know Bigby will know this. That was Vista Comics in Longview, Washington, when I grew up, when it was in its original location. And I would also go to LB's Comics in its original location at that time too. Those were my two hometown LCSs at the time, and yeah, definitely. I spent a lot of money there. And I'd walk over, which I lived in between both shops, so it was always kind of a hike. Kept me in shape. It actually helped me keep in shape, helped me learn how to read, and learn new terms and stuff like that.
Bicycle across from Brush Prairie to downtown Vancouver.
Oh wow!
So that's a long ways.
Yeah, that is a hike for sure. See, I want to make sure I got caught up on comments here because I wasn't paying attention for a minute. Anytime somebody tells me about their childhood, I can only picture their current head on a little kid body. Oh, that's great.
Like that, what was that Psy video where I got it from my daddy? I think they put his head on the little kid.
Yeah.
There's.
Only had beat up detective issues. Nice.
Colossus is asking me what my favorite.
Yeah,
I think I've said Wolverine. It's kind of Wolverine and Snake Eyes are kind of a cop out for me. I mean, I really like Spider-Man too. I mean, I don't know. Favorite is so hard. I mean, there's so many great characters. So I fall back on Wolverine a lot. So.
Yeah, being a big X-Men fan, I've always told people like Cyclops is my favorite, but really, honestly, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Rogue have always kind of been like my triangle of awesomeness at the top of the X-Men. Like any X-Men team I built in my own head, it always started with those three, which that's how blue team all the way.
My team has always got to be. It's got to have Rogue. It's got to have Cyclops. It's got to have Wolverine. It's got to have Colossus, Nightcrawler. Kitty Pryde. So yeah, I'm right in that time period. It's just like these are the X-Men that you have to have.
See, comics are good for your health. They definitely were back then. I wish I had some of that energy now. Right. I wish I looked like I did back then in so many ways because I was a lot more in shape. So who would win in a fight between Snake Eyes and Wolverine? Well, to me, it's not even close.
Snake Eyes doesn't have a healing factor. I'm sorry. Snake Eyes is great. No,
Snake Eyes has like this weird ability though, but Wolverine kind of also has this. But like Snake Eyes, if they come to kill Snake Eyes or something like that, he's going to be 7 steps ahead of you every time.
That's one of my favorite episode or issues of G.I. Joe. Is the one the cover is Destro standing over Snake Eyes in the cabin, in the doorway, and that it's so almost like slapstick comedy with the bad guys are out of their element in the wilderness trying to kill Snake Eyes, and it so good. It was a Destro and Firefly, and was it just Destro and Firefly? I
remember them. It's been a while since I've read that issue.
Yeah, but
Chris says Snake Eyes wins.
You think Snake
Interesting.
Eyes wins? Okay.
He's definitely. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking about and I kind of go back to this. For me, it depends on the era of Wolverine, because if you take the current era Wolverine, it's like no contest to me. However, if you do go back to Wolverine kind of from the Marvel Comics G.I. Joe run time period, okay, it gets a little different because that Wolverine was a little bit more grounded. He was a little bit easier to defeat. I mean, especially if you think about Wolverine around the time frame of like the Hellfire issue where he's like creeping around the Hellfire club. Like he's just barely tougher in some ways than a regular person, but he has claws.
Right.
And he can heal, but like if you broke his leg, it would take him a couple weeks to heal or something like that, right? Like it would always take a while.
You can't break his leg. It's adamantium coated. Come on now.
Well, he would get hurt in those comics at that time.
Oh yeah, it was usually.
I mean, I think that might even before he was
muscular stuff. Yeah, but
yeah.
But yeah, and he also had the drawback of he couldn't control his berserker rage back then. So like,
yeah,
you could get it where he wasn't using logic and stuff to fight. So.
No, you're late. It ended an hour ago, John. Oh man, there's been some great ones. There was the diarrhea incident. There was also the bubblegum drug ring. You missed that too, CJ.
He said there's one other way that I would get money for comics, but so we used to, like I said, we weren't making lots of money when I was a kid. So my mom would give us like, do you remember food stamps where they were the paper food stamps?
I mean, yes, but not intimately familiar.
She would give us a $1 paper food stamp, and we could go buy a snack with that. And so I go down to the store. Well, I would buy like a 5-cent piece of candy, and they don't have change for food stamps. They have to give you coins back. And so then I would take those coins and I would go to the comic store.
Nice. I mean, man, it is. You talked about trading a little bit. Like I don't remember trading comic books. I know I did a little bit, but I don't remember like which ones or whatever. But I do remember trading because I lived out in the country, and then I moved into town when I was 10. And so I do remember trading. That was kind of the Marvel cards were really big around then, and I remember trading those with my neighborhood kids that were in the area. Like we would all trade with each other. See, that's a much better one to me. Is Snake Eyes versus Captain America.
Right. That's a good fight.
Wolverine just has so much plot armor. Like it's the same thing with the one before earlier, Chris. Like anybody can write it so that Snake Eyes would win that fight, and there'd be having some Deus Ex Machina that creates that situation to happen. But this one's a little bit closer to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Snake Eyes, has got long distance weapons, but Cap's got the shield he can probably use to deflect any bullets or whatever, right?
I'd probably give Snake Eyes. I mean, I'd give him the edge on like fighting ability, but not necessarily fighting prowess with like the enhanced Cap. Has the enhanced reflexes, the enhanced strength,
right?
Which in the comics, I feel like strength was never really one of the things they focused on, but they have since Chris Evans was practically doing bicep curls with a helicopter in one of the movies. I feel like they've kind of upped his strength a little bit in the comics, the suit. And I could be way off about that. I'm not the biggest Captain America fan in the world, but I feel like strength, he was strong, but he was peak human, right? Like he was never
peak human. Yeah. Just like a Batman. It's kind of a peak human physical.
Well, more than Batman almost. Like he was just like slightly peak. Like he got the serum, so yeah. Batman is just Batman versus Snake Eyes would also be interesting. It's just a straight fight.
That'd be a good fight. They just did that may have happened in the Fortnite book. I think I've seen a cover that had Snake Eyes and Batman on it.
There is actually I don't know if they actually end up fighting in the comic book, but I've definitely seen that cover too, where they did that event. That'd be interesting. I need to go back and check that out now. Zero Hour.
Space Case and sell the candy. Yes, I would go buy the nickel candy and sell the candy.
Oh.
I might have them. I don't know.
Oh, that probably. I'm guessing based on what I've seen. Chris Galactus. That reminds me. Fun issue that I would love to go back and look at some point is the issue where Wolverine fought Galactus. That was a fun one where they basically tried to they did that thing they do sometimes in comic books where they gave Wolverine a gauntlet, and like every issue he was fighting somebody tougher and tougher and tougher. And the final, there was like a space prison planet that Galactus was going to eat. He had to stop Galactus. Basically, really, he just had to delay Galactus long enough to get everybody out of there. But yeah, that reminds me of that. That said, I do have to take our very last ad break. So we're going to do our very last ad break. Make sure as I do that, I'm going to tell you, please go subscribe over to the EXP on YouTube, as well as Bigby and myself over here on YouTube as well. And then when we come back, we're going to wrap up our final thoughts on this conversation. Plus, we have amazing community artwork that we want to show off and talk about. So definitely stay tuned for that. Yeah, we'll see you back here in about 2 minutes.
Some comic live streams seem like they're just throwing everything at the wall. Hey, you want this unknown comic? Here, how about this boring one? Found this one in a rain gutter. Give me some money for it. I know this looks like a rotting sandwich, but I swear it's a comic. Pay me! But with Comic Collectibles, we know you don't just want comics, you want the right comics. You want rare variant and incentive covers, vintage books in pristine condition at prices you won't find anywhere else, and truly unique hand-drawn cover sketches by some of the most amazing artists in the business. Join Rex and his rotating cast of co-hosts live from Dynamite Entertainment headquarters for a carefully curated roster of comics that you'll only find here at Comic Collectibles. Every Monday at 6 and Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time. Part of the experience.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons, and Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram. Download our app on Google Play and the App Store. It's so simple, even my mommy can use it.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I love those Adult Swim inspired moments that they do on their coverage there. It's great. So I was just trying to think if there's any other of these comments that we definitely needed to get to. I did want to mention, I didn't have a chance to highlight this comment earlier. Smirking Gun says, dude, so awesome to see your channel continue to get more notice. I'm hoping to get back into talking comics again eventually. Wait, we hope you're planning on doing that. That's awesome. We'd love to see that, man.
For sure. You need a new dance move, Bronson. You need that.
For sure. According to the Marvel cards, Captain America could lift 600 pounds, and we all know that the Marvel cards are canon. And I'm not even being a jerk when I say that. I'm being serious.
Sure. People
energy projection of 2. Well, I clearly. I mean, that's what it says. I always believe that. Oh boy, Sicko's coming out with an AI question. Let's hear it before we start showing off some of this awesome community art. Did you talk about the Squadron Supreme maxi series? I did not talk about that. If you ever have news stories, feel free to shoot them over to us. I would love to hear it. I did want to answer this. So Chris said this, and I didn't have a chance to get to it because I was trying to get to the ad. Wait, Galactus versus Cartoon Sergeant Slaughter. The answer is easy. Cartoon Sergeant Slaughter would annihilate. You could name anybody, and I'm going to pick Cartoon Sergeant Slaughter.
Right. Yeah, I think it's in his contract. He took everyone out.
Yeah.
I saw I don't know where it came from, but there was some cartoon that had Galactus, coming for the Earth, and they have Ghost Rider using his penance stare on Galactus. I thought it was pretty amazing.
That's a good strategy right there. That's like one of those like underutilized abilities.
Right.
And then kind of like anybody that fears being touched by Man-Thing, that kind of stuff. That's another good one. They should burn. Like there's some of those that get brought up, and it's definitely important. Hey, there we go. Richard comes through and says FF in the 90s cartoon.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing. I was like, yeah, they just show Galactus like slumping back against Ghost Rider's like, feel the crushing weight of all of the souls that you've taken out of existence when you destroy those planets. It's just like he just kind of slumps back against the building.
Well, I'm waiting for Sicko's question. I want to get going with the show, but I was hoping he could get in before. But I'm sure I'll put it up. It'll do it as soon as I put this up. But let's talk about some community artwork. I need to make a little bumper for this. That's coming soon here. But in the meantime, community artwork. I don't know. Yeah, I never want to be touched by the Man-Thing. That is 100% true, especially when it's giant size. Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about community artwork, which is one of my favorite segments we do every week. Part of the reason we decided to start doing this show and the format we do it in is to highlight positivity and to talk about the community. I was just talking about talking about this with some people earlier as we were talking about the community artwork topic. I'm so excited for this segment every week. This first piece, this is an amazing Batman piece, obviously, by Actual Dracula, who we've featured on the show before. Go follow Actual Dracula on YouTube and over on his IG page. This is so awesome. This is just amazing.
Super cool.
He's come on the show before. He's probably busy tonight, but I wish he was here because I'd love to tell him, dude, good work. He always continues to impress me with his artwork. So
the shading on that is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I see the Keaton in there for sure. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
No, you're all good, man. You're all good. I started, so we'll get to it after the community artwork. Next up, we got Ben Taz. I did 2 pieces from him that are kind of matching that we'll share this week. He did this one on the, I guess, kind of I'm guessing like a lakeside kind of here. Maybe it's a beach because the next one, the character's holding a surfboard, but he kind of did a kind of a matching set. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, his stuff is always he's got a wide, different number of styles that he does.
Yeah,
so really interesting.
Hey, what's up, E-Man? We just talked about you earlier in the show, dude. Thanks again for reaching out to Fabian and getting that Jetfire piece. That was really cool. We showed that up earlier. Everyone loved it. Yeah, he does a really good job. Oh yeah, that's right. He has a comic book out too. We'll feature some of the art from that things coming up too in a future show. Actually, comic tropes. I'll be honest with you. You actually inspired this segment because you used to have your viewers would send you artwork, and then you would do the Gotcha Bond prize at the end of your show. I probably said that word wrong, but that actually helped inspire this segment completely. I love that idea. So, and then actually the other thing too, I should mention the Comic Book Community Awards did a featured best comic community artist, and I was like, you know what? Let's actually show off some of that artwork for people in our comic book community. So it's kind of both of those things put together.
Right.
And then this is a cool piece he did, kind of some retro video game artwork, talking about his style shift, here, like between the last two pieces and this, totally different.
Yeah, that has to do, I believe, with his graphic novel. So this is the character from his graphic novel.
Nice.
So
that's very cool. I just, every time like you send me a batch of his artwork, and then we kind of load it up for the next few shows, I'm almost like, whoa, like there's just such a variety of things. Like some of it looks like commercial artwork commissions, and some of it looks like digital, and it's all over the place. It's really cool.
Right. Yeah, Richard, Freedom Edge. That's the name of Ben's book. Freedom
Nice.
Edge.
Definitely go check out Ben Taz over on the IGs or Facebook, for sure. This one is by our resident Bigby McFly, the comic book guy, doing some arcade here. I love it.
This is
Nice
from
job.
Geek Out with Roscoe. They had a comic book character in a vacation setting, or a postcard for a vacation setting for a comic book location. So my
Killed it.
Murder World.
Yeah, perfect. I love it, man. You did a great job. Especially love seeing you draw X related characters. Is always kind of my favorite. That's what I like. But or GI Joes.
Joe's or X. That one, I whipped that one up pretty quick. So there's not a lot of detail in it. My favorite part is the drink in his hand. But,
yeah. No, that's really cool. That I can definitely see that being challenging for me to draw, and you did great, man. So awesome. This is new. I don't believe we featured his artwork before, so this is kind of new to our segment here. I think Eddie Rodriguez. God, yeah. Awesome. Kind of almost like a graffiti style. Limp Bizkit is what I think of when I see this. That whole like little character that was on their cover. What can you tell us about Eddie? Because I'm not familiar with him.
So Eddie, I know him through the comic art community group on Instagram, and I threw up a post and I just said, hey, anybody who wants to have a shout out and have your art shown on our channel, we'd love to have you. And Eddie's always posting really cool art on there, and he responded right away and sent me a whole bunch of pictures. So yeah, it's beautiful artwork. And Space Case said his left arm is right-handed. There's something about that arcade picture that bothered me. Maybe that's what maybe I goofed it up. So I was like, couldn't tell what was bothering me about it. But I'll have to go back and look again. But yeah,
nice.
I love though Eddie's artwork is beautiful.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like just the stylizing there is awesome. And then this was another piece, obviously, Death from Sandman, from the Endless, I should say, really, but from the Sandman comics. Yeah, there's a little bit of Bruce Timm in here, just really cool.
Yeah, it is amazing stuff. Yeah, so guys, go follow him over on Instagram. Beautiful artwork.
Nice. Yeah, it's I'm a big sucker for Death too, so. Really
yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. I mean, you got that kind of almost that Warner Brothers kind of face there. It looks almost
like the eyes, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the mouth too. That's cool.
This is very cool.
Hey,
this guy.
It's by some joker named Bronze Age Nerd. We feature a little bit of our pieces in here, but there is like a greater competition for this. We're not part of the competition. We're actually going to supply prizes for the competition. But we do feature our artwork in here. But yeah, this was me. I actually was trying to ape. I don't know if it's Geraldo or Geraldo Nito, as an artist I follow on Instagram, and he does this like really good J. Scott Campbell-esque kind of artwork. That's what it reminds me of anyway. And I was kind of following some of his style points here. So this is kind of, after him. I actually should have wrote that on the signature, but
it's cool. I like it.
Thank you. I'm practicing. Like I always love like the Jim Lee cross hatching and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm still trying to like kind of do that and ape that. So that's kind of my two goals with this one were that. And then
I'm getting there. I see that. I can definitely see that with the line work you're doing there. It's looking good.
My daughter told me I should draw this for my wife because it's her favorite character. So
I love the hair. The way you did the hair is good.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And you guys you're all way too kind in chat. Thank you. Let's get to Roscoe. Roscoe just continues to be one of the best out there at doing just really funny, awesome artwork. So he did a great job on this one. I love it. This is kind of like a little bit of a play on like there's the stuff where like you see like MJ washing Spidey's costume, but he's like doing his own ironing here, and I love it.
Right. Roscoe sent me a bunch of new stuff tonight. I said, "Hey, if you have anything new, go ahead and send it to me." And are these okay? I'm like, absolutely, dude.
Dude, he does such. I mean, every time I look at one of his pieces, I'm always excited to do it. Like I talked to him a little bit when he won one of our prize packages, and he was telling me about like the cartoons he likes and like his interest in cartooning and stuff like that. And it just it shows in all of his artwork so well.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't follow Roscoe, dude, he's amazing.
Yeah, Geek Out with Roscoe is, by the way, you were talking about, just in case we didn't say the full name earlier.
Yeah, amazing channel. I think we talked about it last week, but the man is a huge inspiration to me with like all the physical challenges he's had to overcome to become an artist. Yeah, and what he's able to do. So
he does great. Speaking of Roscoe, no, this has to be Immortal Biggie Shack he drew, right?
I think it's Hank Hill as like a Hulk Hogan, but it does kind of look like Immortal Biggie Shack.
Okay, Hank Hill's okay. I could see that too. I in my head I was like, I don't know if it's supposed to be Biggie Shack or not because I know he loves Hulk Hogan, so I could see.
I can definitely see. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Right.
Yeah. But just awesome, and I wish I could show all of his work, but we're going to kind of stretch it out over a few weeks because there was so many from him.
I'm trying to do like two from each person, right?
Yeah,
two or three from each person at the most, so they can give people a good viewing time.
Yeah, and all this to say, we will happily feature your artwork on here. All you got to do is send it to one of us. The only other stipulation is that it's safe enough for us to show on YouTube. Honestly, like if you have artwork that you want to share that isn't safe enough to show on YouTube, still send it to me. I might be able to cover it up well enough, or just see some of your other artwork because I enjoy that kind of artwork too. But we just want to make sure, and that could be too violent, it could be too racy or whatever. But yeah, so many great community artists. 100% agreed there. Yeah, no, that's very true.
Hi, Tina.
Yeah, hi, Tina. The hashtag origin still going on. I'm actually going to do that drawing here in a second, so make sure you get entered to win some free comic books. And after that, I'm going to do the channel member giveaway for the month of August. I'll just show this real fast. You're in to do Vader Down, which is a great Darth Vader story, trade paperback. Neil Adams homage on that Lex Luthor cover. Ultra Mega. It's either Ultra Mega or Ultra Massive. I always mix it. It's kind of like a Guyver kind of style story. And then a free comic book day Star Wars book. Try to grab some Star Wars because of that Star Wars news we had. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that drawing here in a moment. Gotta share the giveaway tool here. So get that in now. We got 11 entries in so far for this. We got 18 watching. So do make sure you get in and get that in there. I'm going to give like a 15-second in my head kind of countdown, which is enough for lag, basically. And then we'll get to Psychotron's question, and I'll do the channel member giveaway.
There we go. Getting a question. Very interesting.
By the way, I think he might not be doing it because he's in a different country, so he might be being nice to us there in case he wins. That said, I do got to send him a package at some point, so I don't mind if he enters. It's just going to be, probably nighttime really soon.
He's in there. He got in after he did it without and then with.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Yeah, I saw now. I get it now. All right, let's run this beautiful giveaway. Good luck, everybody. And then we'll do the channel member giveaway and get to that question we had in the chat. Good luck. Let's see who the fates will smile on this week. It is Psychotron. You're the winner. Congratulations. Sicko, hopefully what I just said is true. Hopefully you don't mind waiting until we can get that package sent out to you, because you do accrue an additional shipping cost. Which I don't mind as long as we can get you everything at once. And you're usually cool with that. So congratulations, dude.
We talked about it enough, and then he just won.
Yeah. Well, and your real immediate prize is going to be.
We'll talk about your question.
Yeah, we'll answer your question here real fast. Congratulations, dude. And by the way, if you've ever won, Sicko's good for this. He doesn't need to send me his stuff. But if anybody else in here ever wins, please send me your shipping information. That's held up a few of those packages. So, if you ever remember winning, like, oh, I should probably send my shipping information to Bronze, because I don't necessarily know how to reach out to everybody because I don't have your contact info.
Right. Right.
So Sicko says, being a little devil's advocate, get it? I do get it. How would it work if you used AI to help you make images in your artwork style and you're using royalty-free images, not in any other artist style but yours? The follow-up to that is, the reason I asked my question is I read Atlas Shrugged, and the themes in the novel are about technological advancements and their impacts on our society at all economic levels. Well, I'm not going to get into the Atlas Shrugged of things because it's kind of a charged topic in some ways, but your question is still definitely 100% of a valid one. And this is something I've actually talked about before. There's a couple artists I'm aware of that are essentially doing stuff like this, where they're feeding their imagery into their own engines for AI creation. So it's very much based on a closed loop. I view that very differently, but my personal opinion is I really hope that those artists are disclosing that that's what they're doing. I think it's definitely, if you're using that for like a prompt for yourself, kind of, if that makes sense, that's a little different too. And then you're like drawing over it because it is your own artwork you're using. It's a little different, but I do hope that people are disclosing that, so it gives people as consumers the ability that if they do want to support it, they can. If they don't want to support it, they don't have to. That's kind of my quick take on it. How do you feel about that one, Bigby?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. As long as you're disclosing it, I just don't know that those tools are available to most normal artists to build something that only works off of your artwork. That's not going to pull from anybody else's style. So it is definitely a difficult question. And we had Travis and I were talking this weekend, and somebody said they got to just do away with all AI, and we're like, do you know how much stuff in your day-to-day life is assisted by AI? You don't realize how many things that you use every day.
And like we've said it over and over and over again on this show, and like a lot of people are kind of beating this drum. There's a big difference between AI as a blanket statement and generative AI. There's a huge difference between those two things, especially when it comes to generative, imagery. And I'm always like a supporter of transparency. Goes a long way for me when it comes to this stuff. Like that's what I want.
Right.
I'm probably not going to support the AI generated imagery sold to me. I do think for funsies, for just for having fun and not for making any money off of it per se, like that's different to me too.
Right.
Different thing. So there's that.
Flaring, you throw your face on Superman's body or whatever.
yeah, there you go, or Thor or whatever, right? Punisher.
Punisher, Thor. Go crazy with it, annoying your friends, sending them pictures.
I guess I should actually show this first, but I am going to do our giveaway here. So this is I kind of cobbled some stuff together pretty quickly. I usually get the stuff set beforehand, but this is our monthly channel member giveaway. And I'll be honest, I love and very much appreciate my channel members. If you're a channel, this is for the channel members on the Bronze Age Nerd channel, because I've been doing this forever. If you are a channel member, as you get closer to the end of the year, your support is going towards things like Heroes for Heroes more than it is really for me. And because of that, I'm definitely I'm putting that money into those causes. So I'm probably not sending out like crazy slabs and all that kind of stuff. And also all that kind of revenue's down a little bit. Let's just put it that way. But I'm still offering some comic books that I think are going to be fun for somebody. We've got Marvel Fanfare with a gorgeous Angel cover.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love that. We got the Death of Miss Marvel. Spoiler. Get it. Got this great. I cannot pull the artist off the top of my head. It's a Davy Go. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Davy Go. Silk #1 variant cover. Really like that. And then I'm throwing in a graphic novel from the stash Bigby sent me, which I hope is cool. It's the Hulk Transformations.
That's cool.
So those are all going out to a channel member that's on the wheel here. If you were a channel member in August, you are eligible. That is not what I intended to do. I need to make that happen, and then I can do that. There we go. So I'm going to randomize this list 3 times. Shuffle once, shuffle twice, shuffle again. And then, you can kind of scroll down and see all those beautiful channel members. They're all doing great work here to support Heroes for Heroes and my channel in general. So I do definitely appreciate that. Thank you very much. I need to get
he did really die, actually, Journey, but the X-Men had that thing where they could bring back any mutant, and it was revealed that she was a mutant, and so they had those egg things, and they hatch you out, and she died, she came back.
Yeah, so I mean, it honestly led to kind of a bigger plot point. The thing where she's a mutant kind of became the real story there.
Right.
But yeah, they brought her back so fast. It was definitely one of those comedically short deaths.
Right. Immediately, like the next month, she was back.
Yeah. I'll agree with you there. She definitely faked for the purposes of everything. And on a scale of Superman to Uncle Ben, she was like a -2.
Right.
Okay, so good luck to all my channel members. I really do appreciate your support. It seriously means a lot to me. Let's see who our lucky winner is this month. And
it's
Electric P, I think he was in here a little while ago. Saw him in the chat.
He was. Yep.
He was. Excellent. Collector P, that is awesome. I'm well familiar with you, and you know the drill. It usually takes me a little longer to send these out. But I at least have your address, so I don't have to
You removed Collector P?
Oh, well, I mean, I meant removed from screen because that's what it says over in StreamYard, but I mean, he still is the winner. So yeah, anything you got going on coming up this week that we need to make sure we let all the people know about, or anything?
I'm going to be dropping a video about picking up a small collection, and that features two of my friends going all the way back to junior high school. That comics have kind of bound us together. I mean, they're kind of the unifying thing that's kept us talking for this whole time. So
that's code for they were his best bubblegum customers.
Pete and Travis, good guys.
Nice. And that's going to drop just later this week?
Yeah, later this week. Yep.
Cool. I had a video. It's actually already up on my channel, but I did an interview with Justin Jordan, who's the creator of Luther Strode. He did that comic book with Trad Moore. Brian Ching, who did a lot of awesome Star Wars: The Old Republic artwork, which kind of came up earlier in the show, you know, in terms of that kind of stuff. He did Supergirl, so did some Superman, did a lot of great stuff. Will Quintana, who did Exiles, and he's a great colorist. He's done lots of awesome things. Very prolific career. And I also talked to Carl Choi and Sarah, which is the Nerdy Barbie from the 24/7 Comics team. We're discussing the launch of Zero Ghost, which is on a Kickstarter that's going on right now. It's also, though, a great chance. I talked to Justin about Luther Strode. I talked to Brian about his career and how he got into comic books. I actually talked to all of them about how they got into comic books. If you like the origin story topic we had tonight, it's very similar to that. So I highly recommend going and checking out that video. We're also going to be, I'm not sure which days exactly that we'll both be there, but we're going to be at Rose City Comic Con. I'll be there Friday for a chunk of time and pretty much all day Saturday. I will not be there Sunday. So if you're going on Sunday, I won't be there. Bigby, you're going?
I'm trying to get Friday off.
Yeah.
Possible. I'll be there for sure on Saturday, but
okay.
The work is messing with me for Friday. So
nice.
They won't let me know until Wednesday night whether I can have Friday off.
Jerks. Literally jerks. Lots of people in chat are going to be there. Comic Tropes, Lunch Money Comics. I think John's going to be there. Tons of people. So yeah, Dr. Plagueis. Yep. Lots and lots of people. So great con to go to. It is kind of I don't know. I think it was kind of like a smaller show, but in a way that has kind of a charm. Is kind of how I usually describe it. It does not generally have a ton of comic book vendors, which is, I don't know. Some people go to cons and they're not looking to buy comic books. Some people go to cons and that's all they want to do. So it does kind of depend. I will say, E-Man, are you still there? Is it RKFA or RFKA? I can't remember. Is your buddy going to be there with that vendor? Because they had awesome deals last year.
Yeah, that's the place to go dig.
Yeah. From the C-list villains, it's Red. Is Red going to be there with? I think it's RKFA. I can't remember which way the initials.
RFKA.
Yeah.
RKFA.
RKFA. Yeah. So yeah, if you know if they're going to be there, I'd love to go dig there for a little while and probably pick up some killer deals. It seemed like they were just looking to like get rid of stuff. They're like making deals on everything you brought up.
Literally, Travis got like a whole short box of books for just over $100.
Yeah. So, and some fun stuff, like a lot of What If, right?
Yeah, a ton of What If. Yeah, he's big into What If.
Yeah. So cool. I hope they're going to be there. But yeah, if you're going to be there, make sure to let us know so we can, make sure we hook up with you or meet you if you want to. If you don't want to meet us, I get that too. That's totally fine. Promise I'll try to wear deodorant that day.
We got Frankenstein coming up right after that too.
Yeah, that's October, right?
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, then the comic swap in Portland that has become one of my new, like, if you like digging for comic books, that's the show to go to.
So good.
Yeah. The owner of Cosmic Monkey co-runs that show, which is a comic book shop in Portland, and I'm excited for that too. That's gonna be awesome. Cool. Well, hopefully we'll see you. I'm sure next week we're going to be recapping what happened at Rose City Comic Con. We'll probably have a different topic for you as well. But yeah, lots of great stuff coming up. Hey, we got one of the Twitch viewers, TN Comedy. What's up? Thanks for watching over on Twitch. We appreciate it.
Sicko, yes, if you go to the Rose City Con, you can hang with all of us.
For sure. Yeah, and John Stout. Who's a great guy. He's a really nice guy, by the way. So meet John if you get a chance to. All right. Well, that said, we loved having this time with you. Thanks for listening to our comic book origin story. If you want to hear different topics, please reach out and let us know what kind of things you want to hear us talk about. We'd always love to talk about the things you guys are interested in. That's really helpful for us. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Hope everybody has a fantastic week. And we'll be back next week for Best Coast Comics next week at 8 o'clock Pacific or 11 if you happen to be on the East Coast. And have a great night, everybody.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.